Hey there, what up? It's ARTFX. I've been doing some work on the track yesterday. This is the same track I showed you earlier this week. It's the new drum and bass track I've been working on. I said I had to make a build-up. Well, I kind of like succeeded in making a good build-up now. I'm also working on the intro a bit more, so it's actually sounding, well, even more epic than it already was. And now I'm getting to where I actually need to make the drop. And I need to make some really heavy reese basses right now, so that's what I'm going to be doing in this video. But I figured, let's show you what I've got right now. So I'm going to play you this in a couple of seconds. Let me set everything up so that I can hear it as well. I'm going to be playing this now, and yeah. Well, I'll show you a little bit how I made it, and I hope you like this. So, there we go. So, that's what I have right now. Don't mind the little drop thingy. The bass sounds a little bit too weak. It's really I haven't done too much to that part of the track. But yeah, the intro actually sounds really awesome now. I think I've done some changes. I can show you what I did. I guess I'll show you. Let's see. I did a couple of things. So the build-up itself is actually pretty awesome. We had this part in the intro. You can hear there's a couple of layers in here. That's a layer, and I've got a couple of other things here. These are basically the same percussion things I showed you in the earlier video that I did earlier this week. I also added this break, which I really think made it sound quite interesting. So what I'm doing there is actually pretty cool. Let's say the whole first half of the build-up, the break is pitched up 7 semitones, and I'm using the beats mode, and I brought this transient. I brought this thing here down a little bit so that the notes are a little bit shorter. I mean, by default. It's a bit heavier, a bit fuller, so I wanted to make them a little bit thinner, a bit smaller. And then during the second half of the build-up, I'm dropping the pitch to just a normal, which is 0 semitones. And that's why the second half of the build-up has a sort of like a heavier, lower pitch snare. I am also gonna use this break during the drop because it's a really good break. I might actually layer some other stuff in there as well. I changed the kick drum as well. I took a different kick. That's the new kick. It's still not done yet. I need to shape it a little bit more, but it sounds better than the one I had earlier. Let's see, what else did I do? I added some stuff here, I think. Yeah. I added a bunch of stuff. I added a completely new group of bass sounds. The basses that I had in the previous project that I showed you earlier this week, I didn't really like them too much. So what I did is I changed it up a bit. I first added this little bit of an FM bass, which is kind of like a frequency modulation bass. I added a bit of a reverb to it. And a high pass and a bit of compression. And that high pass is actually, it's going down, so that's the first instance. You can hear it just gets more low frequencies. That I also layered with this bass. It's just really sitting there in the background. There's not even really that much low end in this one. It's just there. I guess I'll distort it a bit later on. And I added this reese. So these three together, it's kind of like does that. That's then going into the main buildup, and in the buildup I also created a bass, which is this one. So that's just adding a bit of rhythm to the buildup. And let's see, I also added this synth. Now, this synth, I actually made it in massive. It's basically just a detuned saw wave, two detuned saw waves, with a bit of modulation on it, as you can see. Nothing too crazy actually, it's just, it's pretty simple. It sounds like this. And if I just play this without any of the effects on it, this is just a massive patch. So that's all it is. And towards the end here, it kind of like opens up. I added a ping pong delay. And I added a reverb to it. Then I decided I wanted to high pass it. Then I decided to add another high pass. I don't know why I didn't just automate this one, but you know. Then I decided I had to use a low pass as well. And then I decided to add a utility, which I think is bringing down the level towards the end. Yeah, you can see right here the level is just going down towards the end. And there's quite a lot of, if we go to the buildup, it kind of like opens up the filter and the release time becomes longer, so. But you can still hear the delays right now, but I'm automating the track on off right here, so right after here it should actually just stop. See, it just stops. I don't need the delay right after here, just it needs to go right into a silent part. Now for this part, I think I added a little bit to here. I added this cymbal noise, just a really high pass cymbal noise with a reverb on it, and then I freezed it. It's just there to really add some noise to the track, I guess. That's the main pad. I haven't done too much to this. That's just a harpsichord that we had earlier that I added. I did add this one, which is like a cello, which really adds a lot of interest to the intro. Sounds like this. So that's pretty interesting. Really adds a nice amount of well, musicality to the intro, I guess. So that's just to reinforce the start of the build-up. What is this? Nothing. It's completely turned off. Okay, I'm not really using the track, so I don't know why that's there. Also to reinforce the start of the build-up. Then here I took an audio file and put it in a sampler, I think. Yeah, and just made a pitch bend upwards. That's a little part of the build-up. I also made this one. So those are just part of the build-up actually. And I added this layer, which is actually another synth I made with Serum. It's nothing too crazy again. Just pretty much a synth with a couple of wavetables that I made myself. It's kind of like a, almost like a guitar kind of patch. It's like a plucked string patch with a really long decay on it, a really long release time. But well, it sounds really electronic. It's not really like it sounds digital. It's not like an analog organic sound. But it just adds a bit more interest to the intro. And then finally I have this riser. Now, again, this riser, it's actually pretty simple what I'm doing, but this is just a riser itself. And I've high passed it. And then I decided I wanted to give it some more motion, so I added an auto pan, and I'm automating the rate and the amount. So that's pretty much what I'm doing. Then I've added another auto filter where I'm actually automating the filter frequency on the high pass. So it becomes more a high pass towards the end. Again, I could have done it with this high pass, but I don't know why. And then I have a little bit of reverb on it. So that's pretty much everything. I also have a little bit of a vocal here. I'm not too sure if I like this one, but I was playing around with it a little bit. So with that vocal. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna save this project, and now I'm gonna go into a new project, and we're just gonna start making some reese basses. So the basses that I want for this track need to be really heavy. I guess almost like a Noisia bass, like the really Noisia like reese basses. That's kind of like what I'm gonna be going for with this particular one. Yeah, so I think I'm just gonna go and try and make a couple of different reeses maybe, and just bounce a long note down, and then so I can put those in a sampler and maybe come up with a really good reese for this track. The thing is with this track, the intro is so epic and so big that the drop actually needs to be super heavy and in your face. I'm really thinking about how I'm actually going to be able to pull this off, but it needs to be really big, and so big, actually I haven't made a drop that big yet, so I'm wondering if I'm going to be able to pull it off. But if I will be able to pull it off, then oh man, that's gonna be such a satisfaction. That's gonna be such a good feeling, I guess. So yeah, let's hope Ableton wants to open up a new project now, so that we can start making some bass. By the way, guys, I also got a new tank for my little e-cigarette vaporizer thing. I bought an Aspire Clayto tank, and damn, this thing is really good compared to what I had. Thing is, with these things, you really go through a lot of juice with these tanks, and the tank I had was a pretty small tank, because here in the Netherlands they will only sell you to a maximum amount of 2 milliliters. That will let's say the tank has a maximum capacity of 2 milliliters of liquid, which is not much at all. I mean, 2 milliliters with tanks like these, you're gonna be out of the liquid really quick, and you have to refill it every single time. So I bought a new tank, which is 3.5 milliliters, and you can actually buy a replacement glass to make it a 5 milliliter tank. Now that's gonna be much better, because I don't have to refill this thing. And just looking at it, I mean, the tank itself, it looks just almost as big as it was before, but the juice tank itself is actually much bigger. So and the flavor and the clouds are just better, so I'm happy I bought this thing. So yeah, there we are. Let's get to it. Making a reese bass. I'm just gonna make a couple of reese basses actually, and just see which one sounds best. So let's just get started. Let's do one with Massive first. I haven't really used Massive in a long time, so I guess it would be cool to just make one with Massive now. Massive is actually a pretty good synth. A lot of people always ask, you know, like which one is better, is Massive or Serum? Which one is the better one? I think they actually both have their own little place. They're both good synths. You know, both of them have their own qualities, I guess. So let's just make a clip of this length. Let's drop in an F note, F2. Let's get to work. So let's drop it down in pitch a little bit. Gonna add 2 voices, a bit of detuning. And let's add a sine wave to it. Let's add. Let's add a little bit of movement to this. And let's do a double notch in the second slot. Let's add a little bit of phase. Okay. See what happens if we put another sub underneath this. You know, I now actually have put a sub frequency that's even lower than what the normal sub frequency would be. So if I trigger the F2 note, we actually get a sub that's an octave lower even. You can hear it doesn't even do that much really. But the reason I'm doing this is that when I'm actually going to pitch bend up to the F3 note, we're still going to get a solid sub. And I think I can bypass that one as well. Yeah, so that thing is bypassed, so the only thing I'm wondering is just why it's making the wobble. I guess because, oh yeah, we have the detuning here, of course. Let's do this. And let's add another saw wave. So let's add a bit of movement to that as well. Let's try and make that the same. What if I bring this up an octave? Nah, bring it down. It sounds better already. Let's add a little bit of tube. Okay, and I'm gonna add a little bit of chorus, I think. So that's sounding quite good already. Okay, let's do a little bit of parabolic shaper maybe. Okay, so I think that actually sounds pretty good. That's reese number 1. Let's make another one. So we're gonna do another one in massive, but this time I'm gonna try and do it in a different kind of way. So let's try this out. Let's go to the lunacy wavetable. It sounds a little bit different than what we had before. So that's pretty much the sweet spot. So let's add a little bit of sub to this. So that sounds nice. Okay, so this layer is gonna get maybe a sine shaper. Okay, so I'm gonna root number 2 out. So feedback doesn't really work. I think that's a good one for now. Just have to resample that. Let's do another reese. Let's try another synth. Let's do one with Leonard Digital Silent One. Silent One actually got a new update, which is pretty damn awesome because they've got a new skin, which actually makes the synth look much better. Yeah, I want to activate this. Okay. I hadn't really updated it, registered the new update yet, so there we go. Now we should have a new skin. Is this one? Yeah, so look at that. Absolutely looks really nice. And they also made this one, which is okay. And this one, yeah, this is another new one, but I just like the Apex one. Looks absolutely great. Okay, so let's drop this note here. Init skin or init preset. Let's drop it down. Okay, let's run that. So that's a new one. Let's make a little bit of a longer note here. I'm just gonna make this note a lot longer so we have more room to play with. Sounds pretty good already. Let's go to part B. Let's add a sine wave underneath this. I don't think we actually need one right here, so that's good. Let's maybe put a little bit of processing on this one. Okay, let's try another synth. Let's try one with serum. Serum is always good for Reese's, because you have just so many options in terms of modulation, which is really important when you're making Reese's, by the way. And I'm not really paying that much attention to how the Reese's sound right now. I'm just making stuff that sounds interesting enough. So that's sounding interesting. That's nice. So, I guess we can just play around with that, maybe do a little bit of modulation on that. It sounds nice and heavy. I could do another Reese, maybe one with that's not based on a saw wave. Maybe do one that's based on a wavetable. That could be cool. You know, it doesn't really matter what kind of movement you have. The thing with Reese basses is the kind of like the characteristic movement is from the detuning, but you can do it in completely other ways as well. Because essentially all the movement I'm creating now will end up as the kind of like characteristic Reese movement, which means that when you play a higher pitch, it actually speeds the movement up. Well, it doesn't matter what I'm gonna do after this, because I'm gonna be what I'm doing now actually, because I'm gonna be throwing these samples into a sampler. So then, whenever I do that, the movement will speed up, regardless if I want it or not. So, the only downside with the tuning is I mean, the sound is good. I mean, the sound of the tuning. It's really good, but it also makes your sound really wide. And when you are making stuff like drum and bass or any genre that is heavy on bass, which could be played in a club, you really want to be very careful with stereo width when it comes to bass. Because when you sum that down to mono, you might actually cancel out a lot of the bass and lose a lot of weight and impact that the bass has when you hear the full stereo sound. But in a club, I would say about 95% of all the clubs out there where your music might be played are using a mono system. And it's really simple, because there's no point, at least not right now with the technology these days, there's not really a point in doing a stereo club system, because you might be standing in one part of the room and there's a speaker all the way in the other side of the room and another one all the way in the other side of the room. So depending on where you are in the room, you're actually going to hear either the left or the right side of the speaker, of the stereo spectrum. You're going to hear that earlier than the other side, unless you are perfectly in the middle of the club itself. But you know, you can't pack all the people right in the center of the room, right? So naturally, people on the side are gonna hear something different than people in the center of the room. So how they work around that is basically just by using a mono system, so that all the speakers are outputting the exact same thing, and what you're hearing is essentially a mono mix. So you're not hearing any of the stereo information. So why do we pay so much attention to stereo width? Because, you know, there's more to it than just playing your music in a club. But you gotta be aware of it when you're making sounds. That when you sum a really wide sound to mono, you might actually lose a lot of frequency content, because stuff starts to cancel each other out. So, in my opinion, it's better to have a mono bass. Because it'll just always be heavy when you make it heavy. When it sounds heavy, it'll always be heavy, because it's mono. It's outputting the same thing in both the left and the right speaker. And you can always add like a little bit of chorus on there to just give it a tiny bit of width. But the majority of the bass sound needs to be mono, especially in the low frequencies. Otherwise, you are definitely going to get some problems. So, when making Reeses, you could also make a Reese with a different kind of movement. For instance, let me just load up one of my own wavetables that I made, and let's put on this LFO, and let's just listen to how this sounds. See, now I have a bit of movement now. And when I play a higher note, it plays the same kind of, the same speed, right? But when I bounce this to audio, this movement will also speed up, and if I put this in a sampler. So there you have the characteristic Reese kind of movement again. So it doesn't really matter how you make the movement, because right now, this is still mono. And I'm not doing any detuning, so, you know, this would essentially just work. let's look for something cool. So that sounds nice. Let's try and put something else in here. That sounds nice. I like that. So I'm gonna try and let's try and make this a bit slower. And I'm gonna add okay, that's good. Gonna make this the same kind of movement, but I'm gonna make a different shape so that I'm just trying to create something with interesting movement. So I don't really like that, so I'm just gonna take that out, just play around with this. Might work. Let's put a notch in here. Okay, maybe add a little bit of distortion. I'm gonna take another one here. of these.
So I don't know what it is, but everything sounds really weird right now. Guess that works. Let's add another notch to this and do a double notch, and let's just make a longer clip. Just adding a little bit of stereo width now, but nothing too much, just ever so slightly. Maybe add a bit of compression. So there we have another reese. So now I made 5 reeses, which I can resample. I'm going to be calling it a day right now, and I'm gonna be resampling these ones, and then I might actually go and try out some other things with these loops in a sampler and see where we can actually take it. We might also do some processing on these reeses in the next video. So if you like these kind of videos, please comment, like and subscribe. If you subscribe to this channel, also be aware that you need to click this little bell icon, whatever it's called. That means that whenever I upload a video, you will get a notification and you will not miss any of my videos. Also, I've got some really interesting news. My Neurofunk drum and bass sample pack is currently on the number 5 spot in the Beatport Sounds top 5 in the genre of drum and bass. So if you haven't seen that sample pack yet, check out the description below this video. There's a link to the product page where you can actually buy the sample pack. It's a sample pack with 1500 one-shots and loops that I made especially for neurofunk and drum and bass genres. Now, they will also work if you like really gritty hip-hop drums, or if you like dubstep drums, any of these kind of genres, you will be able to use these samples. Also, if you want to help me out, if you want to keep me and this channel going, you can actually help me out, donate a little bit of money to this channel, and it will help me to, well, do more videos. Because if I can, you know, get more money for this, then I can make more videos. It's as simple as that. I got a life to live and I got bills to pay, so the more money or the more time I spend on these videos, the less money I'm actually making. So it's a little thing I have to deal with. But yeah, so if you want to help me out, everything is appreciated right now. That's it for this video, and I hope you liked it. I'll see you back soon. Peace!